Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making this cute little love bug. It is what I consider a no-sew body pattern, which means we're going to start by making his little arms, then we're going to make his legs, then we're going to move on to the top of the head, work our way down, attach the arms, do the body, attach the legs, stuff, and clothes. And then we will have to do a little bit of embroidering and then sew on the little antennas and heart and the wings. And then if you prefer to use the plush yarn, I've also made up a sample following this exact same pattern. For this video, I used a number 4 medium weight yarn, a 4.25 millimeter hook, and 14 millimeter safety eyes. And for the plush version, I used a number 6 blanket yarn, a 5 millimeter hook, and 18 millimeter clear safety eyes, and then I just used a regular felt pen and colored in the backs. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you, and I am also providing a drop down at the top of the screen for the first 30 seconds of every row for you to follow along with. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. There's also this new hype button. I have no idea what it does or what it means. I'm assuming it gets your video up higher in the algorithm. So it would really mean a lot to me if you hyped it, if you liked it. Okay, I think that's everything. So grab your yarn and let's get started. All right, we are going to begin with the arm, and you can start any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'm going to be making a knot with a loop on the end, and what I do is I fold my yarn in half, and I'm going to pinch it up at the top, wrap that around, down, and through to make a knot. Then I'm going to pinch that loop, and I'm just going to slide that knot all the way up so that that loop is just a little bit bigger than my hook. And you're going to insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That's just attaching our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 8 single crochets into that loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pull that tail if you need to close up that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one, and for row 2 we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 3, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 4, we're going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 5, we're going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 6, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 7, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 8, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now we're going to stuff this, so take your hook out and your stitch marker, grab your stuffing and get that ready. And you're just going to put a little bit inside, just enough to make it stay round. When I did the plush version, I made the bottom half quite firm, and then I barely put any up into the top. This one, you want it just to be stuffed enough that it stays round, but you don't want it to stick straight out when you add it. So about like that. So it's a little firmer there, but I can squish it down to a point at the end. So when you think you're happy with the amount of stuffing, you're going to put your hook back in. You're going to go into the next stitch. Then you're going to go into the last stitch on the other side. It's going to look like that. And we're going to do 3 single crochets across. Make sure you're going through both sides. 1, 2, 3. And then just tie that off. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail. Even though we aren't sewing this on, I do something at the end with the tails to help keep them more secure and the arms a little less floppy. Now, if you've just finished your first arm, I'm going to be putting a screenshot over in the next frame with a timestamp, so you can go back and do your second arm. And if you're finished your second arm, just keep on watching and we will continue on to the next part. All right, now we're going to do the leg, and again, you can start your rounds any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be doing my knot with the loop on the end. Insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch, that just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 8 single crochets into the loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pull that tail if you need to close that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that pattern all the way around for a total of 12. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 increase for 2 and 3 in the same stitch. Continue. 4, increase, 5 and 6. 7, increase, 8 and 9. 10, increase, 11 and 12. Row 3, we are going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 4, we are going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 5, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease, 4, 5, and repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease, 4, 10. Row 6, we are going to do 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 7, we are going to do 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 8, we are going to do 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we can take our hook out, our stitch marker out. We're going to add our stuffing now, so grab that, get that ready. So we're just going to take a little bit of stuffing now. And you want to get it packed down into the bottom of the foot, and then lightly or hardly at all in the top. So I want to kind of pack it down, but maybe not do the last 2 rows, because we want that, that might be a little bit too much. We want that to kind of come to a kind of triangle shape on the bottom, because when we put it on and he's sitting, we don't want his tummy to be in the way, so he flips backwards. So I think that's enough for me. So let's get our hook back in. And then you're just going to go into the next stitch, into the last stitch on the other side. And we're going to do 4 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then tie that off. Again, leave a little bit of a tail. I don't do a lot with these ends, but I do tie them on the inside after we put them on. So if you've just finished your first leg, I'll be putting a screenshot over in the next frame and with a timestamp, so you can go back and do your second leg. And if you've finished your second leg, just keep on watching and we'll move on to the next part. All right, now we're going to start at the top of the head, and again, you can begin your rounds any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be doing my knot with the loop on the end. Insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches your yarn to your loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 8 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pull that tail to close that hole if you need to. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 12. So 1 single crochet, 1 increase for 2 and 3, and repeat that around. 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12. Row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. 1, increase, 2 and 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18. Row 4, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. So 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, and repeat that around. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24. Row 5, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, increase, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, increase, 29 and 30. Row 6, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, increase, 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, increase, 35 and 36. Row 7, we are going to do 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 8, we are going to do 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 9, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 10, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 11, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 12, we are going to do 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 13, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease. 4, 5, and repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and a decrease for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30. Row 14, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. Row 15, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. 1, 2, decrease for 3, and repeat that around. 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, 8, decrease for 9, 10, 11, decrease for 12, 13, 14, decrease for 15, 16, 17, decrease for 18. All right, our next row, we're going to add the arms. So grab those and get those ready. And I'm going to switch my camera angle so we can see a little bit better, and I will meet you right back. Okay. Now for this next row, row 16, we are going to start off with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to grab your first arm, and remembering that where your stitch marker and where you started these 3 stitches is your back, you want to have your strings of your arm facing the front. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the head. So into the arm, into the next stitch of the head, that's 1, into the arm, into the next stitch of the head, that's 2, into the arm, into the next stitch of the head, that's 3. Make sure you're in the next stitch, because sometimes it looks like you got to go on the same one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Now you're going to grab your other arm, and again the back's over here now. You want to make sure your strings are facing that front side. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the head. So 1 through the arm, through the next stitch in the head. That's 2 through the arm, through the next stitch in the head. That's 3. And then we should have 3 stitches left to finish off the row for a total of 18. 1, 2, 3. Row 17, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8. And as you're going around these strings, make sure they stay on the outside because that's where you'll need them for later. 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and an increase, 23 and 24. Row 18, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 19, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 4 and 5. And repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20. Oh, this yarn. Hold on, still 20. 21, 22, 23, increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, increase, 29, and 30. Row 20, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 21, 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 22, 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 23, 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. All right, we're going to add the eyes now, maybe a little bit of stuffing in the head. So grab those and get those ready. All right, so we're going to start by finding the row that we want to put them on. And we want to put them between rows 8 and 9. So you're going to find your starting loop. That'll be row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So right here between rows 8 and 9. And then next, that's just finding the row. We want to make sure we're nice and flat and centered, and then we're going to find the middle of our row. So what I like to do is use the knots where I attached my arms as my first stitch, and then I'm just going to count over to the center. So there's my center stitch. I'm going to come up to my top loop and just kind of pull it. So I for sure need to go over at least one more. I think that should be okay. So I'm going in a hole this time. Usually I go in a stitch, but I'm actually in a hole. And we're going to count over 4 holes. So we're right where our pin is. 1, 2, 3, and into that 4th hole. And then we're going to do the other side. Start where your pin is. 1, 2, 3, 4, and in that 4th hole. Now when I did the plush one, starting in a center hole, I had to move my left eye over 1 stitch because it didn't seem as centered. So just double check really good before you commit to putting your eyes on that they're nice and centered and in the middle, nice and even with the arms. And if you're happy with that, you're going to put your thumb on your eye. You're going to flip that eye up into the neck hole so you can see that post and access it nice and easy. Put your back on and then just squeeze it together. And do the same thing for the other eye. Thumb on the eye, push it up through the neck. Get your back on. There we go, eyes are on, and let's add a little bit of stuffing too, so grab that. And you're going to want it fairly firm. Try and hold on to the neck and then stick your stuffing down on through. Pack it up nice and tight at the top. So you're kind of getting it nice and compact above the eyes. And then you're going to start putting it kind of to the sides. A lot of my shaping is done with my stuffing. So you want to make sure you get it nice and firm and to the sides and how you want your head shaped. Sometimes I'll take my fingers and just kind of push it around. Just be careful that you're not stretching your stitches. So those ones are starting to stretch a little bit, so you've got to be careful now. So then I'm just going to take my stuffing, and if I feel a space, then I'll just put a little bit in. I think I got it pretty good here. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there. Now, if you want to stuff as you go, you can do that now. And as you're going, make sure you're butting the stuffing up to the neck now and not actually stuffing in, like stretching the neck at all. And also make sure that your head is staying nice and round and it's not lopsided. Okay, let's put our hook back in. And for row 24, we are going to do 3 single crochets, a 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4. And repeat that around. 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. All right, our next row, we're going to add our legs, so grab those and get those ready. All right, so for row 25, we're going to start off with 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that should bring you right centered with your arm. If you're not, if you're over here, just take a stitch off. If you're back here, add a stitch. And then when you get to the end, you'll just have one more or one less stitches than I do. When I did the plush version, I only did 7 on this side. And then I believe that would make 6 on the other side. All right, so grab your first leg. And we're going to do 4 single crochets into the leg and then into the body. So into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 1. Into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 2. Into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 3. Into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 4. And then we're going to do 3 single crochets across. Whoops. Before we do that, put our leg string on the inside. And now we're going to do 3 single crochets across and make sure you're in the next stitch and not the same one. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to grab your other leg. And we're going to do 4 single crochets into the leg and into the body. So into the leg, into the body, that's 1. Into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 2. Into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 3. Into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 4. And then if you started with the same amount of stitches as me, we should have 5 single crochets to finish off the row. And if you adjust it here, you're just going to have one more or less on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's tie these little leg strings on. Oops, see, I didn't put that second one in. So if you forget to put it in, you're just simply gonna thread that on your darning needle and then just bring it in, whatever you feel is the closest stitch to bring that knot to the inside. And then now you're just going to tie those 2 strings together. So those are your leg tails. Nice and loose, kind of against the inside of your body. You don't want them to be super tight and close together because you don't want your legs to go like this. So just loosely across the bottom. And as soon as you can tie it without the knot slipping, we'll just give that a cut. And then let's get our hook back in. Now we only have about 3 rows left, so if you need to stuff as you go, make sure you're doing that. And for row 26, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. So 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, 4, 5, and a decrease for 6, 7, 8, and a decrease for 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15. Whoop. Okie dokie. I'm still on 15, my decrease. 16, 17, and a decrease for 18. Now I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing. I don't want to add too much yet, just so I have a little room for finishing off the bottom. I probably already got too much in there. And I'm just going to make it so I can add my last little bit in at the end. Row 27, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 12. So 1 decrease for 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, decrease for 8, 9, decrease for 10, 11, decrease for 12. Just double check your stuffing now. You don't need the body quite as firm as the head, but you do want to make sure that the back side is kind of more stuffed than the front, just so, because we're adding wings, it'll put a little more stability into the back. I'm just going to add a little bit more here. So when I do it, I have it so I have the front here, the back here, and I'm spreading most of my stuffing to the back side. But just make sure it's also flat. You don't want this to be rounded, so it's still nice and flat. And then for row 28, we're just going to do 6 decreases. That's 1 decrease, 2 decreases, 3 decreases, 4 decreases, 5 decreases, 6 decreases. And then you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch and tie that off, leaving yourself enough of a tail to sew that closed, and then hide it out into the back. All right, let's get our darning needle out now. We'll close up the bottom. We don't need our stitch marker anymore. So we're going to thread on our end tail. All we're going to do is weave in and out of these top loops of our last row. If you are doing it in the plush yarn, try doing 1 or 2, then pulling it and doing another couple and pulling it, and that will help you if your yarn snaps really easy. This is the last place you want it to snap. Pull that closed, and then I'm just going to go into the next stitch and tie a knot. You can tie a couple if you feel like you need more than one. And then I'm just going to go into the center, right close to where my knot is tied, and then just out the back somewhere. I give it a good pull to make sure the knot goes to the inside. Yep. Give that a cut. And then we'll do these little arm strings. So thread one of them on. It doesn't matter which one because we do them exactly the same. Then you're just going to find your end where your knot is, and you're going to go into that hole right beside or in front of it, and then out the back center somewhere around the neck. Then take your other one and do the same thing. Again, find your knot and your string, and you're going to go in that hole just in front of it. And then you're going to come out the back where your other string came out. You're going to give it one tie, keeping track of your ends. So what I do is I like to wrap them around my neck. Then I know I got the right one on the right side. And now what you're going to do is you're going to pull these so that that knot slips to the inside and your arms kind of come forward. So just pull them until you're happy with where they're sitting. They will relax a little bit. And if you're using the plush yarn, don't pull too tight. I broke mine the first time, but I had just enough. I think I had about this much. I had just enough that I could tie another knot in it. I was very lucky. And once you have that nice and tight, we'll put those ends back on. Whoop. And then just go back inside that same hole and out the bottom or somewhere. Whatever's easiest for you. And we'll give those a cut. All right, now we're going to shape the face, and what you want to do is find the middle of the neck and the narrowest part of the neck. So you're just going to, I use my armholes here, and I'm just going to come over one by one till I'm in the center. So I'm going to choose that one as my center. So I just put my pin right there, and then we're going to thread on matching yarn to the face. I'm just using a scrap that I just cut off from doing the arm. And you're going to go in that stitch that your pin is in. You're going to come out over to one side. So I'm going this way first. Leave a little bit of thread on this side for tying. Then you're going to come over again to the next hole, and you're going to go straight up, just kind of under the outside edge of that eye. So right there, because we're going to go over one stitch. We want to be on the bottom of the eye. So we'll come up, go around this stitch right here, and come back down. And we're going to come and do that same thing on this side. So I'm going to come up in the stitch just to the underneath. Whoop. I'm going to go around that stitch to the outside of the eye. Then when I come down, I want to be 2 stitches over from my pin. So there's my pinhole, 1, 2. I want to come up that stitch. Then I'm going to go in the next stitch over and come up where I started, where my pin is. And what that's going to do is that's going to hold, these stitches are going to hold when we push our head down like that. So they're not floating around in the stuffing somewhere. So now we're going to give this one tie. And we're going to kind of tighten it and push our eyes together and down till we're happy with how it is. And again, or not again, but when I use the plush yarn, I use some regular yarn. You can try it with the plush yarn if you have nothing else, but I would think it would snap. So I'm just pushing in and pulling, kind of making it so there's a bit of a bump right there and the eyes are kind of sunken in. So once you're happy with that, give it a tie or two to secure it. And again, it will relax a little bit. So if you got it a little too much, don't worry. Then we'll thread those ends on. Go in that same hole and then just out the back somewhere. And then give those a cut. And now we'll do the eyes, so grab yourself a scrap of white. You're going to come in the center where you attached your eyes. So it's right here between rows 8 and 9 if you need to count. So for me, it's going to be right here. If you need to, just grab a bit of a stitch when you go down so that the white doesn't slide under your eye. Come over to this side. So see, if I went in there, the white would probably slide. So I'm just going to catch a piece of stitch. Doesn't have to be a lot, just one strand. Then you're going to bring that through. So you have about the same amount on both sides. And you're going to come down just to the inside somewhere on the bottom. I'm 1 row down from where I inserted my eyes and just to the inside of the eye. Then you're going to bring that up in the middle somewhere for tying. And just don't pull that too tight, just in case it wants to slide under the eye. You can fix that in a minute. Thread on your other side. And same thing, I'm one row down from where I inserted my eyes, and I'm just going to go inside and up to the middle. And again, don't pull that too hard. You want these to kind of just sit there. So they're just tight enough that they're not going to move, but not so tight that they're going to want to go underneath the eye. And then we're going to tie them once nice and loose. And one more tie maybe. And thread those ends on, and we'll put them out the back. And again, don't pull too tight. I like to watch from the front, and then as soon as that knot is through, I stop pulling, and I just get my other ends out. You may have to fix that little hole that was just made. Just scoot your stitches around a bit. And then again, cut this without pulling hard. And we'll just scooch that end in, put your needle in, swipe across, and you'll get rid of that. All right, let's do the mouth next. So I'm just taking a scrap of black yarn, dividing in a strand, one single strand, and then just taking that off. If you have embroidery thread, that will work way better. And then we'll just thread that on. Now I put my mouth about 4 rows down from where I inserted my eyes, and I made it a long mouth. Feel free to make your mouth however you want. So I'm just going to count down. This is where I inserted my eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. If that looks good to you, go 1 row down and come out somewhere just on the edge of the eye in that same row that you counted to, not the one that you put your needle in. That's where we're going to tie it. I'll pull that through. And we're just going to let it lay inside the stitch line, and then just wherever it's even on this side under the eye, and then you're going to come down where you started to tie. And before you tie it, just double check that it's even with how you want it. And I'm happy with that. So I'm going to give mine a light tie. Whoop. Now that's the problem with working with this one strand of yarn, but I have a little piece sticking out, so it didn't wreck. I still have my knot there. So I might just have to pull that in somehow. So I'm going to put that through. And then let's see if I can get that end on. Stuff like this happens, and usually you can fix it. So I just have my pin all the way in so that I can get that thread on there. So if that ever happens to you in the future, you can try that. And then I'm just going to fix that little hole that I left there. And since we have our little blackout, we might as well do our eyebrows next too. So again, I'm just taking that last thread off of there. Thread that on your needle. You're going to come just kind of to the inside above the eye, about 2 rows up. So if this is 1 row, right there I think is where I went. So maybe I'm only 1 row up. Actually, I might go forward a bit. I'm going to go about right there. So that's where the front of your eyebrows will start. Once you have it through, you want about half on each side. Then you can just kind of pick where you want your eyebrows to be. If you want long ones, short ones, I'm just going to be going one stitch behind and one row down. So I'm just going to have short little slanted ones. So I'm going to go about right here on this side. And you're going to thread on your other end. Whoop. Oh, me and my needle having a hard time on this one. Okay. And then just kind of match it up. So for this one, I'm just going right in here. It's all going to depend where your eyes ended up, where your stitches are. As long as they're even and about the same size. If you find that one seems a little bit longer than the other, they're not standing out very good in here. Oh, there we go. You can just give one a pull and it will shorten it up a little bit. And then we'll tie those. Kind of loosely. Not as tight as I did last time because I don't want to break my thread. Thread those on. And then just out the back. Or wherever is easiest. Oh, I didn't cut the other ones. All right, so I just pull that through till I see the knot slide, fix that stitch a bit. And then we'll cut those ends. Don't pull too hard, we'll fix them with our needle. You just come in and swoop down across. All right, now we're going to do the little antennas. We're going to be starting with a chain. You can make your chain any way you prefer, but do leave yourself a bit of a tail first for attaching. I'm going to make my knot with the loop on the end. Insert your hook, and then we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then our next stitch is going to go in the third chain from the hook, so not the loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do a double crochet into that stitch. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go into that third chain, grab your yarn, pull up. You're going to have 3 loops on your hook. Grab your yarn, go through the first 2 loops. Grab your yarn, go through the last 2 loops. Then you're going to slip stitch into that same third chain. So there's 1/2 of your heart. Now you're going to double crochet again into that same stitch. Sorry, my yarn is kind of splitting here on me. And then you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to slip stitch into that stitch again. But see how there's a big hole there? You're going to try and go across and catch the other side of that chain and do a slip stitch. So it should look like this. And then you're going to do 4 slip stitches down. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you end up with 3 because you went in the wrong stitch up here, just make sure you have 3 on the other side when you do the other one. And then again, leave yourself a bit of a tail for attaching. And then let's just do the other one. So So a bit of a tail before you make your loop, however you're going to make your chain. Insert your hook, chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Double crochet in your third chain from your hook. Slip stitch in that same stitch. Double crochet in that same stitch. Chain 2, 1, 2, and then slip stitch in that same stitch, catching the other side. So you get rid of that hole, and then 4 slip stitches down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and tie off. Give that a cut, leaving yourself some tail for attaching. Alright, we're going to attach our little antennas on first. So let's mark them. So what I'm going to do is go between rows 3 and 4 on both sides, kind of even with the front of the starting loop. So 1, 2, 3, and then right there in between rows 3 and 4. And then do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, and right there in between rows 3 and 4. Just kind of check that they're both even this way. Have a look if they're sitting in the same spot going this way, and if you're happy with them, we're going to grab one of our antennas, excuse me, and you're just going to decide which way you want to have it, front or back. So this is the front where you can see the V's nice and neat. I'm going to have mine on the wrong side because in my opinion it kind of looks a little rounded and more like an antenna. So it's going to sit like this, so you want to grab whatever the inside string is going to be. So this is for the right side. Thread that on. You're going to go in where your pin is. Decide what hole your antenna is going to be on the other side. So my other string is going to go here, kind of straight down. So I'm going to make sure that this comes out the stitch behind it. And that's where we're going to tie our antennas. So now we're going to thread on the other side. Take that pin out. So now you're going to come down. So you went in there for the last one. You're going to come down the 1 stitch and come out where your other thread was. So it should look like this. And then you're just going to tie these together. I try and make sure I can get that knot through where I tied off if I can. So it's on the inside. And then just tie a knot or 2 in there, nice and tight. Basically this is just a strange way of tying it on the inside when you can't be on the inside. Then we'll thread those ends on. And just hide them out the back somewhere. And then we'll do the same thing for the other side. Make sure it's going on the same way as your other one. So front or back. Take whatever string's going to be on the inside. So we're doing the left one now. You're going to go in where that pin is. I want my other thread to come there. I'm going straight down so that I want to make sure I'm coming out 1 stitch behind for tying. Get rid of that pin. Get our other thread on. And then just like we did the other one, You'll come one stitch down from where you went in and out where you went out for tying. Okay, so give it a nice little tie once or twice, nice and tight, and then take it out the back somewhere. Oop. Oh, I got it. I thought I'd pulled it out with my fingers. And then we'll give those each a cut. And a little swipe if you need to. Alright, let's do the little hearts on the cheeks while we're at the head here. I just got a scrap piece of yarn that's about 2 feet or so long. That should be way more than we need. You're going to start somewhere in the center. This is where we're going to tie. And one side of a heart's going to be right here, come down, and right here. So we want to go up first into the stitch, kind of one row down and a 45-degree angle from our eye. Leave some thread for tying in the front. And then just kind of decide where you want that to be. I think it's got to be here. So I'm going to go around twice. Oh. And then I'm going to go up to the other side. So I'm basically just making a V shape. Go back through, up that hole, just so I'm doing it twice. This one's kind of, you can kind of play with it a bit if you need to. Go back in this bottom, and then we'll come to the other side and do the same thing. So I'm on that stitch, kind of a 45-degree angle down. Yeah, I can't reach. There we go. And now I'm going to come down to this stitch, wrap it around twice. And then go to the other stitch to make my V. Oh, I caught a piece of the head. Don't want to do that. And then out in the middle where we started for tying. That one looks a little better. But you can come in and just kind of poof these out and wiggle them with your needle if you need to make them look a little more puffy. I'm not happy with that first stitch, but I'm going to leave it like that. And we'll tie that. Thread our ends on. And then take them out the back. Lost my scissors. There they are. Give that a cut. And now we'll make our heart. And again, you can start any way you prefer. It's going to be one round into a loop or magic ring or whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to make my knot with the loop on the end. Oh, wrong side. Insert your hook. Grab your yarn, pull up and chain 1, and then we are going to do 3 half double crochets. So we're going to yarn over, go into that loop, grab our yarn, pull up, grab our yarn, and go through all 3 loops on the hook. So that's 1, another half double crochet, that's 2, another half double crochet, that's 3. And now we're going to do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to chain 1, do a half double crochet, chain 1 again, and we're just going to reverse what we already did. So 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to chain 1 and slip stitch. When you make your slip stitch, try and bring it to the back side and then tighten it. Then you're going to tie off. Leave yourself a bit of a tail for sewing it on. I'm just going to pull that one tail tight and cut that off so it's not in our way. Alright, let's pin this little heart on now. And I just put mine in the center of the body. I'm going to pin on each side of my heart here, kind of pulling it out a bit, and then down on the bottom, pulling it down a bit, and then if you want to add a couple of more pins just to secure it, that's always a good idea. I thought I grabbed a green one, but I guess I grabbed a red one. That's probably enough. All right. If you have a hard time with sewing stuff on it, it moves around on you, add more pins. That is what's going to help. If you even need 1 pin in every stitch, do that. Whatever helps you the best. So now I'm just going to come down as close under to the heart as I can get. I'm going to go around a stitch in the body. I'm going to come up just inside the first stitch on the heart. I'm going to come down the next stitch, around a stitch of the body, and make sure you're staying underneath the heart as you're coming out, because you don't want to see your stitches. Come up the next stitch. I'm going to have a problem with all this yarn. Go down the next stitch. And try and do this without pulling your heart too much if you can. And just check once in a while that it's staying in the shape that you want it. So just down the next stitch. And when I get to the point, I kind of go around and pull it down a bit. So I'm going to come up the stitch, and I'm going to go back in that same stitch and come around. And then come down and out and over again to go up. So we're just going to go up and down in all the stitches till we get back where we started. And while I'm doing this, I will just remind you, I do have a Facebook craft page. If you ever want to share something with me, the link is down in the description. And if you want to see all the other things I make, like if there's anything in the background you see, if you go to my channel page, you just click my picture or my name on YouTube, and it will take you to my channel page. If you click videos, it should show you all the videos, but every once in a while, I notice it might show 20 instead of, say, like 200. And so if there's something, if you can't see it all, you can always go down in the comments and ask me if I've made something, and I will usually get back to you within a couple of days. Not always, because sometimes I take a break and then I really take a break. Okay, so we're all the way around, and take my pins out. Now I'm just going to try and dig down underneath my heart to catch a stitch down there. One of my first sewing stitches, if I can see it, but I can't grab it. Okay, so see, there's a stitch I sewed on. It's not a stitch of my heart. I'm gonna tie onto that. Oh, I keep catching my heart here. So I'm just tying one knot. You can tie more if you want. Make sure it's nice and tight and close to the body, under the heart if you can. And then go down in the hole under your heart and out the back to hide it a little better. So I am going to give that a good pull. There we go. Could have done a little bit better job on there, but that looks not too bad. Whoop. Give that a cut. All right, now we are going to do the wings. And again, you can start any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end. Insert your hook. Grab your yarn, pull up, chain 1. Remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 8 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pull on that tail to close that hole if you need to. Whoop. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 8 increases. So that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 16. So increase 1 and 2 in the same stitch, increase 3 and 4, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, increase 11 and 12, increase 13 and 14, increase 15 and 16. Row 3, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 20. 1, 2, 3, increase, 4 and 5. And repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20. Row 4, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24. Row 5, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 6, we're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 7, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, 8, decrease for 9, 10, 11, decrease for 12, 13, 14, decrease for 15, 16, 17, decrease for 18. Row 8, we are going to do 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Row 9, we are going to do 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Row 10, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 12. 1, decrease for 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, decrease for 8, 9, decrease for 10, 11, decrease for 12. Row 11, we are going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 12, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, we have 3 rows left, and originally I did my wing so it tapered more, so I'm going to go down to 8. So if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to put what I'm doing right here. And then when I did the plush one, I thought the tapered down to 8 wasn't very sturdy for sewing on. So I just did 3 more rows of 12. If it'll fit, I'll put it on this side. If not, just remember the next 3 rows you're doing 12 instead of following along doing 8 with me. All right, row 13, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 8. 1, decrease for 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, decrease for 8. Row 14, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In row 15, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now we're finished our wing. Take our stitch marker out. And then we're going to go in the next stitch. And the last stitch, just like we did the legs and the arm. If you went down to 8, you're going to do 3 single crochets across. And if you stayed at 12, I believe it's 5 single crochets across. So 1, 2, 3. And then tie off, leaving yourself a bit of a tail for sewing them on. So if you have just finished your first wing, I will leave a screenshot in the next frame with a timestamp so you can go back and do your second wing. And if you're done your second wing, just keep on watching and we'll move on to the next part. All right, now to sew the wings on, we are going to kind of find the middle of our, the back of our little guy. We're just going to put a pin in. And then let's do the middle of the other one. And I got the strings on the top. I'm going to be sewing down. So right close beside. I'm just pinning right into the neck where the neck is the smallest. And then before you do any more pinning, just double check that you like where they're sitting. That's pretty good, I think. So I've just got mine on a little bit of an angle. Oops, I hope I was in the camera. And then I'm just going to pin them so they stay right like that. So I'm going to put one on each end at the bottom, and then I'm going to put a pin or 2 up higher. Doesn't really matter where, as long as you're catching some of the body. So it's going to stay where you put it. So that's okay there. Let's put our other one on. It wasn't supposed to fall off like that, but these things happen. Just double check that that one is at about the same angle and the same spot. I think so. If you're happy with where it's sitting, put your pins in on this side. You can also just double check they're sitting fairly even on the back too. And if you're happy, let's take one of our wings. I guess we're doing this one first. I just realized I sewed one wing on and then I pinned the other wing on after. So this wing might be falling off. So you're just going to come straight down into the neck hole, right underneath where this knot is. I'm going to come out around that stitch. Maybe. It's not that hard, it's just reaching around the camera. It's tricky for me. Then you're going to come up that first single crochet. I'm going to get rid of that pin now. Then I'm just going to go up and down these 3 stitches, or if you did the other way, you'll be doing 5, I believe. I was going to do this nice and quick, and it is not happening. Oh well. Okay. Then I just go around one more time to make sure that bottom one is tacked on there really good. If your wing falls off, let it fall. It'll be much easier to deal with this wing here. And then I'm going to go back in nice and close, but not in the same spot. And then I'm just going to come out. I'm digging down into the body, and I'm going to come up. So I'm somewhere close to about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows up. And that's just going to tack it up there, whoop, so that it doesn't flop around. I mean, you could be done right now if you wanted to be. But I want to make sure this wing stays at this slant and doesn't tip over. I'm going to come back up. I'm just putting 1 stitch in the top and the bottom. So I'm going to come back down again. This darn string. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so I'm going 1 stitch over and coming down. Then I'm going to come through the body again, just so I can tack this part of the wing up. Then I'm just going to come straight up into this part of the wing. And then go down in the next stitch, and then just come out down here somewhere so I can tie it. So that shouldn't go anywhere. So I've got straight down where we did our single crochets, tacked it here and tacked it here, and then came back and sewed. Then I'm just going to try and catch a stitch underneath somewhere right there, I think. I got it. So that's a sewing stitch, not a wing stitch. And then I'm just going to tie a knot. And then stick that down inside to try and hide it. Give it a good pull. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I just double checked that they were both still kind of even. So just like the other wing, you're going to come down through the neck and up into that first single crochet. Whoops, I'm using the wrong guy as my pin cushion. Down the next single crochet. Back up. And remember, I went around that again to secure that nice and tight. And you're going to go down into the body out so that you're going to come about 4 or 5 rows into your wing. Up into your wing. Just make sure it's at the angle you want. Come on. Maybe back down, and then over to the top of the wing. Up in the top of the wing. Around a stitch, and then out for tying. And I know I did this one a little different. I probably did this one better. And then find one of your stitches if you can. I got one way down in there, I think. There we go. Then I'll tie my knot to that stitch. Just notice I'm staying under the wing at all times so you don't see these stitches. Tie your knot nice and tight, and then bring it in and out the bottom. Give those a cut. And there we go. We got our cute little love bug. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. And make sure to hype it if you liked it. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who has been so kind to have hit the thanks button and sent me such generous donations. You will now be listed at the end of all my next videos as my super thanks friends. Take care, be safe, and happy crocheting!